Today it's our new program called Oversee BSN. So basically today I invited two colleagues and also friends to join me. The reason is three of us went on a BSN road trip globally. So today, use this opportunity. I want to, I'm the moderator today, and I will ask some questions, to both of them, and see, their basically their opinion and what they see on the road trip. Because BSN, Spartan, and BSN Enterprise are very new product targeting a new market, and especially it's no cryptocurrency involved, so it's a kind of away from the mainstream blockchain industry outside China. So we see a lot of things, we see a lot of reactions. So today is basically let them to talk about their feelings and what they say. So first, Jehan, can you introduce yourself? Then, Tim, next.
Sure. Thanks again for having me. So my name is Jehan Chu. I'm the founder of Kenetic. Kenetic is an early stage blockchain venture capital fund. We were the first blockchain investor in Hong Kong back in 2016. I've been in the space since 2013. We're also investors in Red Date and longtime supporters of Red Date and the entire BSN effort.
Tim?
Good. So I'm Tim Bailey. Yifan, thanks for having us. Thanks for having me here. I'm based in Hong Kong, in charge of the BSN and its international expansion business and operations.
Okay, Tim. How about this? Let's start with you, and because you're basically in charge of our entire global operation outside China. So can you describe the roadshow we did, and why we doing that, and how many places we went to, and what's your initial reaction to basically how people really see BSN and a Chinese project trying to expand globally, and yeah.
Sure. Well, so I'd be happy to, Yifan. So we the purpose really behind the roadshow was to promote the BSN Spartan network, which is the network that we launched outside of China. We had our launch event in Hong Kong in early September, and that was very well received in Hong Kong. We had been talking about BSN Spartan to about 20 different Hong Kong companies, and when we did our launch event in early September, we had over 15 Hong Kong companies that had built active use cases on the BSN Spartan network. So right after the launch event, we went out and we organized a series of similar events in multiple cities focused on promoting the BSN Spartan network. So we started in Istanbul, in Turkey. We then went to Dubai, Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and then Singapore, holding events to promote BSN Spartan. And I think the reaction was really interesting because, we had already had a lot of success in Hong Kong with Hong Kong companies who immediately understood what we were trying to do with BSN Spartan, which is create an infrastructure that enables this concept of public IT systems. And so we had, again, over 15 different use cases with both big and small companies here in Hong Kong. What was amazing to me was that as we went to Europe, as we went to the Middle East, as we went to Southeast Asia, we had a very similar reaction from partners and organizations there, which is an eagerness to also build use cases and POCs on the BSN Spartan. So I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, was just how kind of universal the acceptance and excitement was for BSN Spartan, in many different places around the world.
Thank you, Tim. Jehan, you joined us in Dubai, Riyadh, and Singapore. Basically, most of the road trip. How do you see those, events? And also, when I know you have been talking about BSN Spartan to almost everybody, So, what's their reaction, and also what you see on the road trip? What's your impression?
Yeah, this is not my first time to the region. In the past, even pre-COVID, I spent a lot of time in Dubai and Bahrain, also in Riyadh, and so I have a little bit of a sense for the region. I have a decently large network there, and so it was really interesting to go there with the team, the BSN team, and see the kind of reaction from all sorts, from government, from sovereign funds, from other startups and VCs. And potential partners, to understand how they would react to this. And of course, my background is crypto. So, I've invested in over 250, companies in the past, 6 years. The vast majority of them are cryptocurrency. And so a lot of my perspective comes from cryptocurrency, but Spartan Network is something which is completely different. It's exclusively non-cryptocurrency. And I think that the reaction that we got was quite surprising and also quite gratifying, because first of all, regardless of whether they were investors, pension funds, or just family offices, the idea of a non-cryptocurrency network and the benefits of it seemed very, very easily understood. They got it immediately, and there was almost a sense of relief that we weren't trying to pitch something that had a token or that was relying on some type of network. And again, and I say this with love, because I do personally love and invest in cryptocurrency. But, I think through this journey or this trip, even I, really started to come around about the potential of non-cryptocurrency public chain ecosystems, and not only how valuable they are, but how important they are for enterprise and for government, who really still not only are skittish or skeptical about cryptocurrency, but simply don't have the ability to touch them because of the kind of governance that they may have in their funds, in their governments, or on their boards. And so this is a true alternative. And so it was easy to understand. It was welcome, because as soon as you say there's no cryptocurrency involved, and exclusively there's no cryptocurrency, that it immediately means there's no speculation, and that it's easy to understand because it's basically a SaaS business. It's a SaaS blockchain offering. And what I always like to say is that when you remove cryptocurrency from the equation, the decision about whether to use blockchain moves from a board level, existential, kind of strategic decision about crypto to a very, very mid-level decision with IT managers about whether or not the solution you're pitching, regardless of blockchain or not, is fast, efficient, and cost-effective. So I thought that the trip was really successful, even for myself. It was really a revelation, and I think that it resonated quite strongly with pretty much everybody we spoke to.
Okay, thank you, Jehan. Basically, the whole idea why we promote BSN Spartan under the non-crypto currency public chain technologies is because we believe in blockchain technology, and we think it can do so much better beyond the cryptocurrency industry, which means you can bring the true decentralization technology to all other industries. Tim, you basically also talk to all kind of industries, right? From Hong Kong, globally, we now basically talk with, U.S. financial institutions, European tech companies, and Asian restaurant companies, and the COVID testing companies. So how you say this? What's their reaction to this new decentralization of public IT systems? How do they really see the value which can help their traditional business model?
Yes. I mean, maybe the best way to answer the question would be to describe a little bit about the the actual meetings we had with some of these companies. And what we started in probably late May of this year, through relationships we had, through introductions we'd made through our partners. And we went out and talked to, like I said, close to 20 companies. And the majority of them were, traditional businesses, right? With traditional, IT organizations. And the experience we had was we would go out to them. We had a few slides and diagrams that we would use to talk about this concept of public IT systems. And, we would contrast it with the internet today, which is really a network of, kind of point-to-point connections between different private backend IT systems, right? Facebook and Google and Amazon and Alibaba. And we came to talk to them about this vision of the future where you had, in addition to, private backend IT systems, you also added this second layer of the internet, which is public IT systems. And BSN Spartan and the integration into BSN Spartan of non-cryptocurrency public chains that we could provide access to traditional businesses and developers. And so the typical meeting was we would talk about that, explain what we were trying to do, explain how we view blockchains as operating systems within this new public IT system environment. And in almost every meeting, what would happen is we would get about 20 minutes into the meeting, and they would stop and say, "Okay, we get it." And again, we were talking to traditional IT people, right? We weren't talking to crypto people. We weren't talking to kind of Web3 people. And inevitably they would say, "Okay, got it. We understand this. We've always been interested in, the potential of public chain technologies, but we were never able to really get the opportunity to experiment and play around and see what's possible because of public chains integrating cryptocurrencies into the layer one, into the protocol itself." And so they said, this is great. For the first time, our IT teams can, get access to technology that doesn't use cryptocurrencies. We offered as part of the process to actually help them with the development of smart contracts because, not all of them had, teams that were familiar with developing smart contracts. But, again, within 20 or 30 minutes of talking to them, rather than us proposing, decentralized application use cases, they actually came back to us with 1 or 2 or 3 use cases that they'd always been thinking about, but had never been able to actually implement because of the cryptocurrency aspect. And so, as you said, we talked to, big global banks. We talked to, medical testing companies. We talked to companies that operate, thousands of restaurants in Hong Kong and around the region. We talked to big property developers here in Hong Kong, and all of them, immediately came back with use cases that were, kind of specific to their industry that they wanted to test and build on. So that was our experience in Hong Kong, and back to Jehan's, comments previously. We had a similar reaction in Singapore, in Dubai, in Istanbul, where these traditional businesses with traditional IT teams immediately saw the potential of what we're doing with BSN Spartan and public IT systems. And so that was really how those discussions went. And a lot of the questions that come up when we did the events in the cities around the world was, is Spartan targeted at the financial services industry and use cases there, or is Spartan targeted at supply chain and use cases there? And the response that I've been giving to people is, it's the utility is universal across hundreds of different industries, across thousands of different use cases, and that was proven to be very true by the roadshow and all the conversations we had.
Yes, thank you, Tim. It's I also talk about the BSN, Spartan, and also the public IT system concept to many of my crypto friends. Okay, believe it or not, I still have them.
You have crypto friends? I don't believe it.
Yes, yeah, I still have some. Yeah, and their reaction is kind of it's totally different from the traditional IT guy, because from the IT guy they say, okay, how I can build better IT systems, but from crypto they still from a crypto kind of perspective. Some always ask, okay, who are going to use that? There's no cryptocurrency. Who are going to use it? My answer is always, there's 99% of the IT system never even connect to the crypto-based public chain. So Jehan, it's because you have very deep roots in the crypto industry. So Tim talked about the traditional IT guys. Can you talk about, when you talk about the public IT system, BSN Spartan, with the crypto people from crypto industry, what's their reaction?
Jehan is also one of your few remaining crypto friends, right? So I think
yes. Personally, I think Jehan will be the last one remain one day.
Exactly. So I think it's quite interesting because I've been involved with BSN for quite some time, and cryptocurrency has always been apart from BSN, whether it's in China or Spartan Network internationally. And so I've had to tell the story many times over the past couple of years. And I think it's quite interesting. Talking about it, BSN, DDC in China, I think people outside of China get stuck on the China thing and they never really understand the broader implications. But with Spartan, there's no China aspect, and it's really just about the technology and the thesis of having non-cryptocurrency public chain IT systems. And interestingly, not a single, and these are some of the oldest of the OGs in crypto, none of them really reacted negatively. They said, yeah, that makes sense. Because I think everybody really understands that cryptocurrency, as much as we love it, it's not a solution for every problem, and it doesn't fit every application or platform. And we've all, those of us who've been in the industry for 9 years, we've all seen so many different variations. And to be fair, cryptocurrency works great for some solutions like distributed resourcing, like Helium or Render, or these types of things where you're really trying to aggregate distributed resources at distance and create incentives. Perfect. But the vast majority of, I think, crypto projects are not that great quality and haven't proven the utility that cryptocurrency, offers. And so to have another option, another, kind of arrow in the quiver for how they can actually look at blockchain technology, I think that's interesting. And, if you've really been in this space for a long time, you appreciate all the different approaches and the variety and the nuance of how people are using blockchain technology to solve different problems. And it's very clear, at least to me, and this is part of my thesis, that government and large-scale enterprise won't build critical infrastructure on cryptocurrency-enabled blockchain technology because there's too much friction. And that friction is price volatility and hacking risk and accounting, complexity and regulatory risk. And now, of course, in the post-FTX world, it's just, the reputation of crypto is so tainted because there's so many bad actors like Sam Bankman-Fried. And so most enterprise and government are not going to take that risk because the benefit of crypto is not enough to counteract that. And so this option is really good. And so as investors, we're interested in investing in technology, and this technology can serve a large part of the business population and industry that won't build on cryptocurrency-enabled networks. And that's great. I think it represents an opportunity. And even if you love crypto and you're a crypto maxi, you can't get away from this idea that this is another option. This is another tool, and this is another kind of product that maybe isn't useful to a lot of people in crypto, but it's useful to a lot of people elsewhere. And in my mind, it's useful to the largest audiences and the largest companies and the largest governments. So I think it's pretty exciting. And again, I was actually very surprised that more of my peers didn't react negatively. I think the worst reaction I got was indifference. Or like, okay, that's great for you.
They don't care. They just don't care.
It's clear. It's clear, and they get it. So it's surprisingly good.
Okay. It's also why it gave us more and more confidence in the BSN projects in general, because we personally I thought could be a new market, new concept. It will take people like 2 or 3, 5 years to even understand. It's like in the 82. You describe the internet to them, nobody can try to understand, or you describe a car in 1800. So people just don't understand. But surprisingly, I see more and more evidence, right? This is actually on the brink of people immediately understanding the whole thing. So that's why that become an opportunity to us. Of course, Jehan also talked about the China issue, which is, to outside China, when we promote technology from China. So it's basically the elephant in the room. So, but as you guys know, it's, when we build the BSN Spartan network, we actually build into basically above the international standard. When we release launch the BSN Spartan, everything is open source. Okay, today you can go to GitHub, basically get everything open source. Then we even build the Spartan network as anonymous, which means that no matter how you use it, build a data center by your own or just access through anybody's data center, you basically just provide a Gmail or Hotmail address. That's it. So then, we make sure and every, interact goes through on-chain. You don't really connect to any of our, centralized system, so because it's on-chain and it's Ethereum, Polygon, and the Cosmos version of non-crypto, kind of version. So people know how data is handled there. And how the process done, how the encryption done. So we basically are doing everything to make the Spartan network as transparent as possible, as open as possible, and as privacy protecting as possible. So Tim, do you see first, because BSN is from China originally? So do you see a problem? Did you see a problem when you talk to different, partners, players globally? And the second one is what we trying to do with BSN Spartan. Do you think, it will work? Or, if they are enough in the long term?
Okay. It's a great question, Yifan. So I think the vast majority of conversations, particularly with technical people, there's no problem. I think the people that bring it up most is actually the media people that I talk to. And my own view of that is, if you're in the media business, you're in the business of attracting readers. And it's human nature for people to be interested in reading about conflict.
Yeah.
And so the best way to attract a lot of readers to your story or your site is to write a story about conflict, particularly geopolitical conflict. And so a lot of the stories that are written about us in the international press are written from the angle of geopolitical conflict, and so that comes up every time when I talk to people in the media, and inevitably that's the story that's written. The conversation is very different with real businesses and with particularly people who understand technology, because one, they see the value of the technology, and there isn't really anyone else in the world who is doing what we're doing. That's the first thing. And I think for technical people, it's the technology and the value that can be brought by that technology that wins out over everything, regardless of nationality or origin or whatever. The second thing is that, as you say, if even a technical person does bring up the coming from a company that has roots in China, immediately I start talking about it's open source, right? We're being completely transparent. If you don't trust us, go through the code, do a code audit. And then, it's governed by an international foundation of multiple organizations, including, Western organizations that govern the network. And so, again, even with people who are looking at it from a technical lens, they quickly understand it, and they get back into, okay, what can I actually use this technology for? And how can it add value to my business? So I think for those reasons, Yifan, to kind of come back to your second question, which is, do I think it will be successful? I absolutely think it will be successful because, real businesses, real technology people have gotten their hands on the technology, have been, building use cases, have seen the benefits and the value that it can bring. And in every case, 100% of the cases that we've been working on, there's value and there's success. I think it will take time. Back to your point about, trying to describe the internet in 1982 or describe, an automobile in 1800, the question back then was, wait, there's no horse? How can there not be a horse? I don't understand. And
exactly.
And so I think, we're having a little bit of those similar types of conversations. And the parallel there is, one parallel is cryptocurrency from the crypto people, but the other parallel that I would say that people bring up is, wait, you're talking about public IT systems. No one is going to put data in a public IT system because it's not protected and everyone can see it. And so, you need to explain that, and you need to explain the utility and cryptography and how things are protected. So I absolutely believe it will be a success, particularly after doing the roadshow that you and Jehan and I did, and just seeing the reaction and the response, outside of Asia. But I do think that there's a timing element to it, and it's going to take 3 to 5 years to really have this sea change in terms of people developing it. But that being said, it's going faster than I originally thought. When you and I first started talking about this in April earlier this year, I'll be honest, and I'll tell you what I told you then, which is I get the vision, I understand it, but I'm skeptical about the adoption rate, not because of the China angle, but just because it's so different from what people are talking about today. But I will admit you were right, and I was wrong. Once we a month later started talking to big traditional global publicly listed companies, I was at first skeptical that they would sign on so quickly. But within 1 month, within 2 months, we had really large organizations like HSBC, which is a global international bank, building applications on Spartan, and so I think it's going to be a huge success.
Yeah, and just kind of going on that again on the kind of speed of it. I think one of the things that really facilitates this, and then apologies, this is already brought up, but like in the Middle East, they tend to have more top-down structures in when it comes to government, and I think that actually does help the kind of adoption, because these types of technologies I think are actually quite helpful when you have that type of centralized control. It's easier just to kind of implement. So I'm actually quite bullish on the kind of time frame and how soon we'll start to see adoption. I think Spartan was launched in Hong Kong, and there was a lot of support, not only from enterprise, but I think also we're going to probably see that once you have a few key players in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, like I was really impressed at how quickly they got it and seemed quite interested to build, then I think that it will spread quite quickly, because if you have a few influencers at the top, whether they're government or large enterprise, it spreads very quickly in these kind of more centralized and concentrated environments. So yeah, I think in the Middle East, it's actually extremely ripe and really has a lot of potential to grow quite quickly.
The other factor. Let me mention one other factor, which is the network effect. So what we've seen with the initial use cases that we had these companies build on Spartan, what's happened now is, the 15 or 20 companies that are building this now are talking to each other and involving each other in the next stage of their POCs. So the POCs, there's not just a bank and a electronic document services company as separate POCs, but they're actually, as the next phase, working together. And we even met with a local company here in Hong Kong yesterday that has seen what we're doing and said, we want to get involved in Spartan, and can you introduce us to the other companies who are all already building on Spartan so we can participate in their use cases? So I think that's another thing that I've seen, is this kind of network effect that also makes me really optimistic about the potential success of the network.
Very good points. And also, let me talk about one problem. Okay, potentially, people always, when I describe the Spartan, people always talk back, say, especially from crypto industry. Okay, because what we call, the non-cryptocurrency Ethereum, non-cryptocurrency Polygon, Cosmos are public chains, non-cryptocurrency public chains. Then, people who understand technology from crypto industry, they basically, describe, how that is structured. People actually ask a very good question, is how the network's validator node are arranged. Can I freely to join as a validator node? I say no. No, it's not crypto. It's personally, I call the BSN Spartan and also BSN DDC network inside China a decentralized cloud services network. Okay, so it's then the blockchains, the frameworks are basically the operating system, so you can use. So then I tell them, in this business, what I see as a public chain is, first, you can join the network without permission. Okay, you can join, you can leave, you can set up a data center, you can take down your data center, you can use the network without, KYC, and you can basically use the network any way you want. Okay, that's public, because basically join, leaving, do sending data and sending what kind of data, everything is totally 100% up to you. So that's a public environment in this kind of, cloud services industry. For example, if you say AWS, if you can go to AWS without registration and bring up virtual machines, do whatever you want, and AWS don't know even who you are, and they don't even care, and you can use as many resources as you want as long as you pay the fees. Then AWS become a public environment, right? So do you agree this concept? Because because if from the cryptocurrency point of view, the public chain is basically, controlled and governed by all the validator nodes. So it should be freely to join as the validator node. Of course, actually in most cases, even in crypto world, it's not really the case. For example, the BNB chain, when it was hacked, they basically make some phone calls and the whole chain shut down. That's basically right now the largest exchange chain in the world, and basically it's similar. I'm not talking about by the way, I think it's the right way, because that's how you saved a lot of people's money, right? So it happened. It saved almost like $600 million. From their users. So it's actually good setup. So people from crypto industry, don't really consider the non-crypto public chain we deploy on Spartan as public chain. Yeah.
It's not so much that they don't consider it public chain at the moment. I think that the biggest challenge is that they're just not aware of it. It's like they don't have this vocabulary because the concept doesn't exist in the original, last 9-10 years of narrative. So again, when I explain it, it makes sense. I just think that there's going to be a lot of education necessary to introduce the concept, to normalize the vocabulary and normalize the concept. And then most important, and I think this is where, to be fair, BSN and Spartan struggle so far, is that there just needs to be more public use cases and examples of how the technology is being really used. That ultimately, I think, that will ultimately kind of convince, investors and the crypto community. Because remember, it's not really just the crypto community. There's a blockchain community and a Web3 community who like crypto, but are not, dependent on crypto. So there's a lot of different communities out there. And the only thing that really matters is show me the utility, right?
No.
Show it to me, prove it. And if it works and if it's beneficial, then, regardless of whether we like crypto or not, it's valuable. And if there's an opportunity there, we'll build it, we'll invest in it, we'll promote it, we'll partner with it, whatever. So I don't think there's a conflict. There's just a lack of awareness. And to be fair, a lack of, kind of widespread public examples of the technology of non-crypto public IT system technology in use.
Okay, very good point, Jehan. Tim, what do you say about this?
I agree with Jehan. I can't really speak about it from the crypto perspective because I come from the traditional IT world, right? But what Jehan says about the utility and really demonstrating the utility, I think is critical for adoption, because that's ultimately the bottom line questions that people ask when I go talk to them. Is, well, how are businesses actually using it? Why are they using it? And what are the benefits they get? And I think, I agree with Jehan that's something that we need to, continue to talk about over and over and over again.
But personally, I think it's probably easier than, something totally new technology, so for example, computer, when it come out, it probably, even, like the technology people needed to learn how to use a computer for like weeks, even how to type that faster. So it's a very long learning curve. But what I see from the people, to understand the BSN Spartan, it's actually easier than that. especially with people with IT, background. And also we are building the tools, and also some community, just like people, and also some videos like people with programming background can really test the Spartan network with some free smart contract. Very simple, smart contract. They can test, they can modify, they can deploy. We actually will build the process. We guarantee anyone with the programming experiences can learn how to do blockchain development on Spartan in 3 days. Immediately understand everything, test everything. So, and it's the last question, okay? Because nobody is doing this. So sometimes I talk about, I say, oh, we are building a business. Nobody is doing at the same time. One is too early. Two is you guys are just stupid doing something. It doesn't even work. But personally, I truly believe, everything is proof. Okay, I started my own company at 21 years old. I did investment private equity for 10 years. Then I started Right Day. So I think I'm a pretty experienced businessman or entrepreneur. I think right now everything is proven. Okay, it's basically how we promote this and how long it takes. It takes 10 years, 5 years, 2 years. Right now, okay, I tell you guys, the plan. I briefly discussed with team is in next 48 months, which by end of 2024. Okay, we will set up operations through our own, company or through our partners or distributors. We build the operation in all the cities. More than 5 million people globally in next 48 months. Is that possible? This is the operational question. Tim.
In how many months did you say?
48 months by end of December of 2024. Do you have the confidence to push that?
Yes.
There's roughly 100 cities, roughly 100 cities, including, probably like 30 or 40 inside China. So it's, I think it's roughly 60 major cities globally. Yeah, more than 5 million people. Because when it close or more than 5 million people, it's similar to Hong Kong, right? Hong Kong has like 7 million people. So the business there, the large business, large enterprises, there's a very well-built business community, stuff like that. So in next 48 months, we push our operation to set up operations or ISPs, right? Internet service provider and partnership or distributors in each city and begin healthy and well-built operations.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Although I view it slightly differently, which is, I don't know that the ISP model or the operator model will be at the city level. I think it will be more at the national level. Okay. Because I think, like, if you think back to, we often look back to the past for, clues as to what's going to happen in the future. And I don't think the past or the future repeats the past exactly. But I think you need to look at some common things, right? And if I look at, the early days of the internet, you had, very small ISPs, at city level, regional level. But that quickly got consolidated. And yes, basically the telcos are the ISPs. And, when you talk to someone who's 25 or 30 years old right now, they don't even remember the days of ISPs, right? Yep. And so
AOL.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I think that this time it will move more quickly to national, regional level operators rather than at the city level, just because business is not, typically business, the big businesses are not city based, right?
Yes. Hong Kong is different. Hong Kong is a special case. Yeah. You are totally right.
Hong Kong is, it's like, you've got like Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai. I mean, they're very rare cases. I think the more likely cases, you would have a UK, operator, right?
Yeah.
You'd have it at a national level.
That makes sense. That actually makes sense. We need to adjust this to all the countries with more than 50 million people.
Right.
Something like that.
Right. So I think I agree with your hypothesis around adoption. I just think that the way that the operation will work will be more at a national, regional level rather than at a city level.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Jehan, what do you think? We basically treat this as a management meeting.
In terms of adoption?
Yeah, I mean, should we do that in next 48 months to push really hard globally to fund adoptions? Of course, it will cost a lot of money. Okay, let me say.
I do. I mean, I do think we should push hard because you have to understand the context, and this is where you're kind of not being in the crypto space is a bit of a disadvantage for you, because you have to remember that for developers, you're competing for mind share, right? And right now, most developers are on Ethereum. There's developers in Polkadot, there's developers in Solana, there's developers in the Aptos and Sui, there's developers in Avalanche, there's probably 10 to 20 different viable layer ones that are all competing for a relatively small amount of mind share. So this kind of technology can potentially compete, but probably less likely. So where you actually really need to push is in the non-crypto developer community.
Exactly.
Because that's where the larger kind of population of developers who could potentially come over, and you have to find a way to appeal to them. And it's not crypto, so there's going to be less incentive to try and maximize their earning potential or get paid in tokens and kind of have that moon moment. But at the same time, it's also to the benefit because it's probably you have to sell yourself as being more stable and more reliable and slightly more enterprise and blue chip. But because because the network is still a startup network, you don't have that validation. I mean, that's why in China it's helpful to have China UnionPay and China Mobile as your kind of partners. So it's a fine line that you have to walk. I do think that, we probably have to really push on the marketing side on awareness. And I think that's education and awareness. I think that's going to be the hardest part first, because it's a new vocabulary. It's a brand new color. It's a brand new flavor. Like, it's not something people are used to. And just introducing that is just going to take brute force, advertising, influencers, talking about it, educating. And then if you can follow through with some of the partners, like high-level partners to validate it, maybe a large global tech company or large, global banks or, brands that people know, that will help. And that will make it safe and for mainstream developers who don't want a lot of risk and who don't want to speculate with their time and their with their effort. They're going to need that kind of validation from large technology and large brands to feel like they're not wasting their time learning this new environment or learning this new kind of development language. It's not really a new language. They can choose from existing languages. But I think it's important to push, because if you don't push, the mind share starts to get a bit harder to win, because crypto product layer ones are fighting with each other for market share, but you're fighting against mainstream either resistance to anything blockchain or mainstream kind of just ignorance or disinterest, and that's always harder to fight.
Okay, yeah, very good points. Tim, we almost a time. Do us the honor to do a closing statement.
Well, but before I get to that, this is if this is an operational meeting, it's one of the first operational meetings I've ever participated in where a member of the board is actually recommending that we have a bigger marketing budget than what we're already proposing. So that's novel. It's a novel experience.
I've always felt you should market more.
Thank you, Jehan. Okay, we'll Yifan and I will discuss that later. Glad to know we have the support of the board already, though. But I think, Yifan, I guess I'm repeating a little bit of what I said at the beginning, which is, we had this launch in Hong Kong with BSN Spartan. I think it was an incredible success. It went beyond, my expectations. And we then went and did this roadshow in Istanbul, in Dubai, in Riyadh, in Singapore,
and you just did one in London, right? You just did one in London.
And exactly, I just did one in London 2 weeks ago with our partner GFT in Industria, and I think that the response was amazing, and again beyond my expectations. And it started as conversations about. Is this only financial services? Is this only supply chain? And what we've shown through that roadshow is there's universal interest across multiple different industries, across multiple different regions and countries. And so I'm, just because of that, I was optimistic just based on my own, observation and working with the technology, but the external validation that we've gotten around the world has been fantastic.
Good. Thank you, Tim and Jehan. It's a very good program, and thank you for attending us. Also, thank you for the management meeting. Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Yifan. Thanks, Tim.
Bye-bye.
Okay.